192, and welcome to another video. It has been a good minute since my last upload, and really, that's just because this YouTube stuff, I don't know, it's just something I thought I'd try out, not something I thought I'd do professionally or anything like that, so, I did receive a good amount of support on the last video, and I guess thank you for that. I mean, I'm the arbiter. You should just be thanking me. But man, let's just get in. So today we've got a big topic on our hand, and that is Sony brought Bungie, and we're gonna be playing this game Sneak Thief because I don't know. It's just because it's what I have on my radar at the moment. And this game came out a few years ago, but that's not important. You're here for Sony talk and Microsoft talk and stuff like that. So whatever. So yeah, Sony brought Bungie, and I guess they were expecting Microsoft fans to be upset, like, because, I guess because they were upset about, I guess because they were upset about Activision or whatever, so they expect Microsoft to be upset, Microsoft fans to be upset about them buying Bungie and whatever, and the, no, I'm happy for them they brought Bungie, but let's be honest here. They vastly overpaid for Bungie. $3.6 billion for Destiny, but don't let Sony fans tell you that, because for some reason Sony fans seem to believe that Sony now owns Halo. Now, you and I are both intellectuals. I would hope so anyway. And we both know that is false. Sony does not own Halo. They never will. I don't understand why they think that. I think it's because they typed in Bungie, didn't really know what Bungie was, typed it in, and decided, you know what, let's see what these guys do. Halo. That's they have Halo. So if they have Halo, does that if they made Halo, doesn't that mean Sony now owns Halo? Ha ha ha. Microsoft, keep Call of Duty on PlayStation because now we own Halo. It doesn't now if they own Halo, I would not be talking to you right now. I don't think they understand how games actually work. And you know what? I'm actually going to let a good friend of mine explain it to you because I myself I can't do it. So uh Second Slayer 64, take it away, man, because you have a good experience with this type of stuff.
Well, hey there. I'm the one and only World School Sega enthusiast, Sega Slayer 64, coming at you from the freaking Arbiters channel. I'm here, man. I'm on the Arbiters channel. Hello, everyone. Um, yeah, check out my channel. It's Sega Slayer 64 on YouTube. I'm the world's coolest Sega enthusiast. But yeah, either way, I'm on the Arbiters channel, and I'm gonna explain to you today about publishers. So here's how the entire ordeal works, right? Sony brought Bungie, right? And Sony fans believe they now own Halo. Now, I'll explain this to you as I am an enthusiast. Sony when a game is being made by a developer, right? An independent developer. Let's just say, what's a good? Let's just say Capcom is making a game, right? They're making a game for a Sega console, the Sega Dreamcast. Capcom is making a Dreamcast game, right? And and obviously this wouldn't happen, but this is just a scenario. Capcom is making a Dreamcast game. Now this new game is going to be called I don't know. Let's just think of a good name really quickly. Let's say they're just going to be making a new game called um Speedster the Rabbit for the Sega Dreamcast. Okay, they're gonna be making this game called Speedster the Rabbit for the Sega Dreamcast. Now, Sega, the company themselves, are funding and going to be publishing said game. Right? Although Capcom is developing it, Sega is paying for the entire thing and publishing the game. And Capcom is just the contracted developer. So they're going to be developing this game for the Sega Dreamcast on Sega Time, Sega Money, Sega Resources, and Sega's console. And Sega is going to be publishing it and putting it out there. Now, when a company publishes a game, meaning they finance it, they get it developed for their platform of choice, and they're publishing it, so they're financing the entire project. That means, and the project is designed on that company's time, that means that company owns that character. Here, unless in very interesting circumstances that I'll talk about in a second. But to be blunt with you, no, Sony does not own Halo because Bungie developed Halo for Microsoft's Xbox on Microsoft's time, money, and resources. And Bungie has not developed Halo in years now. Their last Halo game was Halo Reach back in 2010. So they have no connection with Halo anymore. In fact, most of the Bungie developers now work for Microsoft under 343. But unless, like I said, the publisher will almost always own the IP pretty much all the time. Besides in random circumstances that I'll talk about right now. A good example of a weird circumstance would be Bayonetta. Now, if you know who Bayonetta is, you know that Bayonetta 2 and 3 have been published and released exclusively on Nintendo consoles, whereas Bayonetta 1 was published by Sega and made on Xbox 360 and PS3. And you might be saying to yourself, well, Sega Slayer, does that mean that Nintendo now owns Bayonetta instead of Sega? Well, no, because this is one of those weird circumstances. So, the development of Bayonetta 2 and 3 were completely paid for and contracted for by Nintendo. So, Nintendo published Bayonetta 2 and 3, but Sega still owns the Bayonetta trademark, character, likeness, all of that. So Nintendo essentially paid Sega royalties to borrow the Bayonetta name. If that makes some type of sense to you guys, it should. In essence, Sega still completely owns Bayonetta. They still own the character. They have the right to make whatever Bayonetta game or property they want to make. But Nintendo paid for the development of Bayonetta 2 and Bayonetta 3, and so it counts as them publishing it, although Sega owns the character. So essentially, they just pay Sega royalties to use the character. That's really there's a few more cases out there I can think of, but that's one of the weird cases in which a publisher does not own the character. Sega owns Bayonetta, but Nintendo paid for Bayonetta 2 and 3 to exist, therefore they publish the game exclusively for their consoles, but they pay Sega royalties to use the character and likeness and blah blah blah, all that. So that's a brief rundown of how a weird situation would look, but and the Bayonetta whole thing is real, but essentially what I'm trying to say is Microsoft still owns Halo, they always will. Bungie, while the original developers of Halo, they don't own the game, they never did, and even the developers that work at Bungie now, almost none of them are the original Bungie developers who worked there almost 20 years ago, you know what I'm saying? 20 years ago, that Bungie team is gone, they're long gone, you know what I'm saying? The people there nowadays pretty much only are responsible for Destiny 1 and 2, pretty much, that's about it, but the original Bungie, even if like I said, there's no circumstance. Microsoft has owned Halo forever, or will own Halo forever, and no, Sony does not have Microsoft. But I've talked for long enough, so I think I'm going to go ahead and pass things back to the Arbiter. So, yeah, thank you for listening, and feel free to check out my channel if you want to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sega Slayer. You basically overstayed your welcome, but it is appreciated. Now, now that he has explained essentially how these things work, you'll now know that Sony does not own Halo. Halo Halo is games are usually owned by their publisher, as Sega Slayer explained. Meaning, Microsoft, unless in very strange circumstances like the one Sega Slayer 64 explained, but games are usually the publisher owns the game. Regardless of what game it is, the publisher owns it, and they always will. You know, stuff like that. And so Sony, I'm dead. So Sony does not own Halo. Microsoft still owns Halo since they published Halo, paid for Halo, created Halo, and it was designed for their console and has become their mascot. They still own Halo. Bungie does not own Halo anymore. They never did own Halo. They just developed Halo, and that was it. And even then, all the developers most of the developers that worked on Halo at Bungie now work for Microsoft, still working on Halo at 343. Or they've just left the industry altogether or don't work at Bungie anymore. Bungie is no longer the same studio it was back in my heyday, okay? Back when they were developing my likeness in games, and I don't care about Master Chief. It's all about my likeness, and that's the important. I was the important person in every Halo game. I don't, we all know that. You know that. I know that. It's me. I'm the arbiter. I'm the one people came for, and I'm the one they care about. So I'm the one they care about, and I'm the one who was important. But Bungie is no longer the same company that they used to be. They don't they don't make these games anymore. They don't make Halo anymore. Bungie nowadays makes one thing and one thing only, and that is they make one game and one game only, and that's Destiny 2. And now, as to if Destiny 2 is worth $3 billion, you can be the judge of that personally. I don't really know, and I really don't care, but they are, apparently in Sony's eyes, they are worth that much money. So, yeah, you know what? Cool, I'm happy for Sony fans, you know what I'm saying? But don't go around saying you own something and you don't even own it. Sony does, but even if you did own it, you still wouldn't own Halo because Halo belongs to Microsoft. And the pure, like, just the idea that the Bungie acquisition even compares closely, like, we're talking about $3 billion compared to almost $70 billion. That's chump change, man. That is chump change. It's not even chump change. It's just flat out like it's outrageous to even think that it even halfway compares to the acquisition done by Microsoft. It's almost mind-boggling in a way because you and I both know that 70 billion dollars for Activision will probably never be matched. It's something that I just can't see ever happening. It will probably never be matched, and even if it was, who's going to match it? Who actually has the capability to match it? I don't even know, man. I don't even know. But the fact that people can go on and believe that and think to themselves for a second that Microsoft is going to let Sony own their biggest property for even a second is actually outrageous. Like, Bungie, even if Bungie did somehow own Halo, right? Even if they did own Halo, the main argument seems to be we own Halo now, give us Call of Duty still. Because, even though a week ago when, well, I'm very late on this story to be honest with you, and I, really wasn't even going to make a video about this, but I just decided it would be worth it. But even though a couple weeks ago when it was Microsoft who was doing the buying, and they brought, and Microsoft brought Activision, it was, oh, we don't care about Call of Duty. Call of Duty is garbage. You can have Call of Duty. We don't want it anyway. It's trash. But now it's, oh, we own Halo, so if you want to keep getting Halo games, keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. And then what makes this entire system even more redundant has to be the fact that Sony still decided that they were going to keep. Sony still decided that they were going to keep Destiny and everything else. Everything, essentially, Sony scammed themselves because being the arbiter, you being an actual video game character and being designed by Bungie, I know their thinking, okay? I know the inner workings of this deal, I know the thinking, and essentially, Sony's thinking was that if we buy a company and allow them to still make games for Xbox will feel sympathetic and still allow Activision to make Call of Duty for PlayStation because we're the good guys. Or even if that wasn't their plan, it's an attempt to try and stay face by saying, hey, well, we're still going to let Bungie make games for Microsoft. So Microsoft should still let Activision make games for us because we need Call of Duty regardless of if we act like we don't, we still need it. It's still consistently top selling game on our system and we must have it. So clearly that had to be Sony's thinking in some way, shape, or form. And to be honest with you, for Microsoft, it's not going to work. It's your measly $3 billion does not, which is still a lot of money. I'm not trying to downplay the acquisition at all. It is $3 billion is still a ton of money and something that 99.99% of people will never see in their lives. But that's still like when you can compare it to the sheer amount of money that Microsoft has spent on Activision, it'll just never compare. There's just zero way it will ever be able to compare. Like it's $3 billion, like you just cannot process that. But like at the same time, $7 billion is even worse than $3 billion. You know what I'm saying? At least you can somehow, maybe picture $3 billion in your mind. But like 7 billion, it's just not going to happen. That's just too much money, dude. It's just by far too much money, and you'll never be able to think about how much money that is. Because I know I personally can't. And I know it may seem like I'm just talking in this video, or that this video was just kind of made randomly, and that's really because it was. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, Sony fans really have to think before they act next time, because for them to actually believe that that Sony somehow owns Halo is just still beyond my belief, and it's something that they should probably address pretty soon, because it's like Microsoft still owns Halo. They always will still own Halo. It's just their thing. It belongs to them. And for anyone to think otherwise, I don't know why. One would think otherwise. I don't know. Man, I'm genuinely baffled myself. But I'm gonna go ahead and end this video because I've been talking for long enough. The bottom line is, Sony, you don't own Halo, you never will own Halo. It is a Microsoft-owned franchise. So now you have a undervalued studio that doesn't make games for your system, basically, because they're still going to be multi-plat on everything they do. And essentially, you just brought a $3 billion paperweight that does nothing. But to each your own. I'm proud of you. I'm happy you're actually trying to do something. You know what I'm saying? Because you were just kind of sitting there taking these hits for a while. Let's get some real competition. You know what I'm saying? Because let's be honest here. Sony fans, they want competition when it's convenient for them, but when it's not, they don't want the competition. So if you're gonna throw out some competition, go ahead. You have your $3 billion studio that's still gonna be making Xbox games, even though Microsoft's 78.7 billion studio is not going to be making games for your system anymore. And yeah, so I don't know if this is an attempt to try and get a first-person shooter that's similar to Call of Duty. I thought about that as well. In fact, I'll explain that real quick. I had a hypothesis. You know what I'm saying? Again, being a video game character, I have the knowledge of the video game community and thought process behind developers. And one of my thoughts on this whole thing was that maybe Sony understands that maybe it's a combination of both. The fact that Sony wants to, in a way, entice Microsoft to keep Call of Duty multi-plat because they're keeping Bungie games multi-plat, but also in a way, I think this is also some type of backup. Even though Sony said their games will still be multi-plat, I'm thinking this is just some kind of backup plan. Like if Call of Duty is gone, we're gonna need somebody to develop us a first-person shooter that we can, keep a hold of and keep tight grips on. Because if Call of Duty is really gone from PlayStation, well, guess what? Sony really has no first-person shooter to compete. Because let's be honest here, who's Microsoft will now own Halo, Call of Duty, and Doom. the three greatest first-person shooters pretty much ever made, and most revolutionary first-person shooters. Microsoft now owns all three. Who is Call of Duty? Who is Sony gonna rely on? Freaking EA or something? I don't know, man. That might be who they rely on. EA, get them some good old Battlefield and what I'm saying, going about their business or whatever. It might work for them. I'm not sure. If that's what they have to do, that's what they have to do. I applaud them, but personally, I wouldn't be the guys to rely on Sony. I just wouldn't. It's not really worth it. I couldn't rely on Sony myself, and this guy's gonna kill me either way. So, yeah. That being said, though, maybe those are just some of Sony's plans that I thought of. Maybe you can think of some more. And, thank you to Sega Slayer 64 for making an appearance in this video. And, I don't know when the next video is gonna be, obviously. I just do. You know what I'm saying? It's probably going to be a while. I'm not even going to be honest with you. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. It's probably not going to be, too soon. I just kind of, felt like making a video today and done it. And I wanted to talk about this. Should have talked about it a couple weeks ago when it was still, a high profile thing, but I didn't. That's my fault. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I've been the Arbiter 192, the greatest video game character of all time, and I'll see you humans next time. Bye.